So I want to go over the question that Max asked us, right? About if we're NFL scouts. So for the draft class after next season, so not this year, we're throwing this year away. So no Ty Robinson, none of those guys, right? No Nash. We're talking about this upcoming draft class, so guys that will be juniors next year. Who are we keeping an eye on that we like talent-wise? I think this stemmed from the talent discussion sort of with James Williams indirectly. I think Max is kind of taking it to the next level, which I appreciate, asking those second and third questions. But it is a super interesting question because a lot of the guys that I like, I don't know. Like I'll use Janarin Bonner, for example. I don't know what an NFL scout's going to think about Janarin Bonner. I don't. I think he's got a really interesting, versatile body type. I don't know what his position and what his role would be on an NFL team. You know what I mean? Like that's one that I sort of struggle with a little bit. Some of the easy ones, you go, oh, Dane Key's been super productive coming in with Nebraska. You hope that he has a great year with Dylan Raiola. Dane Key's is a super easy one right off the top of my head, right? Another one that I'm probably taking a look at, Riley Van Poppel. I want to see what Riley Van Poppel's doing in his third year in a
So basically,
program.
it's all the guys that are a year older than Caleb.
Yep, 100%. Caleb will be a sophomore next year. It's the guys that have been in the program 1 year longer than that.
Boy, that's tough.
It is tough because a lot of those guys haven't produced at a level yet that would give you indications that they're on a draft radar.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think there's a lot of body types that kind of do fit that. Because Riley Van Poppel's a really good example. Hasn't had a ton of production yet. People are kind of enamored with him, right? Like that's a guy that people are really, really into. Now it's easy to go the transfer route like I did with Dane Key, right? You've got a bunch of those guys that are hoping.
What about Haarberg?
Haarberg's super interesting. Because if you believe Coach Rule, and I do, he's one of the most athletic guys on the team.
Well, I've seen,
you've seen it, right?
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, and I believe him. Both from what I've seen on the football field, you see him in the dunk contest, and then you look at the frame and you go.
By the way, P's over Q's is mind your manners. I think T-Mac wants you to behave yourself.
Oh, I'm doing my best, T-Mac.
No, it almost got away from you.
Yeah. That's the story of my life, DB.
Shoot.
No, but Heinrich's a really good one because that's a frame that I think NFL scouts would be enamored with, right? And we've seen guys without a ton of experience being tight ends do really well for themselves in the NFL. You see all the basketball players switching over. That was a big thing, back in the early mid 2000s. You see these guys that don't have a ton of history at the tight end position being really, really good. Heinrich Haarberg might fit into that category.
I wonder about a guy. This would kind of be off the radar a little, so I'm not locking him into my top 5. But a guy that I would be enamored with, like if I just came in and watched him practice, would be Suolofotu.
Why is that?
He's 6'4". Yeah. He's 290. He's got some twitch. He would be a guy that if I was watching position drills, not that I ever have, I'd take a double take.
Yeah.
But again, I don't always know how that correlates into real.
Yeah, how's that translate?
Yeah, because the longer I do this, man, and it sounds so nitpicky and in the minutia, and I just give you a simple example. Like when we slant, like if we put guys on the move, there's a very fine line between what I would call getting washed.
Okay.
Where you get washed down the line of scrimmage past gap fitting that defeats the purpose of slanting versus when you slant, hey, once you see the opening, get back vertical. So you can keep the wash from happening. So sometimes.
So you're talking about, I want to make sure here, you're talking about line play, not like a wide receiver slant.
No, yeah.
You're talking about slanting.
I'm talking about D-line.
On the D-line.
Yeah.
So
how finite a thing it is.
To get the slant and then be able to get back upfield.
Yeah, you're not so you understand.
Because if they keep you horizontal, they won.
If in a one-on-one,
yeah,
and a guy does that, it looks great. Ooh, wow, he allowed him to play across his face.
Yeah.
In a game, it may be, Well, you're just going to get washed because you
by
continue,
the next guy.
You just keep going.
Yeah, it just keeps pushing it down the line.
So that's why sometimes individual drills don't
tell the whole story.
Don't tell the whole story.
Sure. That makes sense. No, I get that.
So, I remember there was a couple of plays that we couldn't stop in a particular defense, and it took like a game almost.
Mm-hmm.
It certainly didn't get corrected in game.
Yeah.
I think it was maybe the Saturday morning film. It was, man, we were getting washed. Like, we wanted a backside D-gap fitter, and there was so much space because we were moving left.
Mm-hmm.
We would try to fit off the right edge, and there would be this huge gap. And we're like, how's this guy hitting that crease?
Yeah.
Well, we got to get back can't get washed. You
got to get back vertical.
Get back vertical.
Because the point of the slant horizontal is to get back vertical.
Right.
As opposed to just keep going horizontal.
And it just took a second.
Yeah.
So, but he's the guy. So I don't know how he's going to play like in team.
Sure. But in one-on-ones looks
But
really
in
good.
Individuals, he's intriguing. And I like his body type.
Can I give you one?
Yeah.
I don't know if, and I'm not trying to be mean here. We haven't seen him play very much. I don't know if he can play football at all. I mean, he can play some, obviously, because he's where he is, right? But physically,
now this is interesting.
Physically, he's a guy that, especially at his position group, I think NFL scouts are going to be enamored with. He's probably at least 2 years away, next year and the year after, before this is a serious conversation. I think a lot of NFL scouts are going to keep a really close eye on Jeremiah Charles at some point.
Oh boy, he is so okay.
Physically. He's because it's not just that he's big for a corner. He's 6 foot tall.
Okay, this is funny. You're bringing him,
and I think he's a real 6 foot tall.
It's gifted athlete,
and his arms are so long.
Okay, so
like how valuable how valuable long arms are.
I would put. Okay, I'll say this needs perspective.
Mm-hmm.
I would put a guy. So the same thing about these two players would be my question.
Okay.
So I'll give you Keelan Smith, and I'll give you're younger, and JJ. Two guys that, like, when you watch them, you're like, ooh, if you were pot committed, like if you're all in,
yeah,
right, shove. The sky could be the limit.
You could be pretty freaky.
But I need to see.
Sure.
Can you be grimy every day?
100%. Yeah.
So JJ's a guy that's really gifted, but he's also a guy that when he got pulled early against UCLA, and I didn't know why they snatched him so quick, because I saw the same concept beat the same guys for almost 2.5 quarters.
Sure.
But JJ was the first one to take the seat.
To get pulled for it.
So I wondered why. And it's not like I'm going to be like,
hey, why'd you do that?
But there obviously has to be something to that.
Yeah, you think
right?
There's a reason.
So
is it fair?
And
yeah,
he wasn't the first corner to go back in
after
or in the bowl game or any of that. So there's something about that is missing.
Posit a theory?
Sure.
He's
health?
No, I was going to say he's a pretty raw football player still.
Yeah.
Is it possible he doesn't have the depth of experience to overcome those failures?
Could be.
Right? If you've played a lot of football and you're getting beat up a little bit, you have the mentality to be like, okay, I've been through this before, I can get through this. If you're not as deep into that, maybe it's like,
especially at that position.
Yeah. Because it takes a mental,
because you have to ask yourself, with
fortitude.
all those bodies that they have, even Amari Sanders, right? Yeah. Like, how did Donovan Jones
pass
play before
and played well,
right? Because for 2 weeks there was this, hey, he's going to be our dime corner. BC has 2 good tight ends. He's kind of a rangy guy. He's really smart. But then somewhere along the line it was, well, shoot, just play corner.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's his competitive stamina. Well, I'm sure that's part of it.
Yeah.
Maybe he's got a short memory.
I'll say maybe it's his ability to move on from a bad play.
Because the thing that people don't realize, and I'm not just saying this because I like him, like, he got moved around a ton.
Yeah.
Especially early. And, you go from field to boundary.
Yeah, trying to find the right place for him.
And then he kind of got passed. But it was kind of not. And then it was, you're going to travel. But then you didn't play. And that takes a toll if you let it.
Yeah, if you're not built that way.
If you let it.
Yeah.
He never let it bother him.
And that's probably something they liked.
Right? So when he gets the notification,
hey, don't need a babysitter.
Hey, you're going to Columbus.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what? Okay, I'm back on.
Yeah.
You like being able to function like that?
It's hard to do.
It's hard to do. But if you
it's super valuable.
I'm telling you.
Like super valuable.
I'm telling you. Like those guys that are so paranoid that they rather be caught with than without.
Yeah.
Those are the guys you got to roll with. Because so many things happen that you can't control. Your ability to hang in there is like 80% of it. That's why I'll never speak down on Malcolm Hartzog.
Yeah, because he's hanging in there.
Man,
a lot has been asked of him to do a lot of different things. His
body was a mess. This dude needed to rest.
Yeah.
Like his body's a mess. Right?
And physically, he's probably not equipped to do a lot of things they asked him to do.
But it's just no downtime.
Yeah.
Yeah, he played 3 different positions. You know, you got to know this. It's just taxing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so.
And he has to know that a lot of the things they're asking him to do are probably not going to make him look the best.
Yeah.
But he's the best one left to do it.
What did Coach Coop say on his way out the door? Hey man, you know, this year I'd like to have Malcolm play here. We asked him to do a lot last year. I'd like to see him when he can just do this.
Yeah, ask him.
Coop said this on the way out.
Yeah, before he was done.
Yeah, and it didn't turn out to be that way.
No, because they needed him again.
They needed him. Yeah,
with injuries and everything to again kind of save their bundas a little bit.
So JJ's an interesting one because I think like if you just watch him test.
Yeah, physically people are gonna be enamored with him.
Yeah.
Another guy people are probably gonna be physically enamored with is Bly Hill. Just the positional size.
I don't know.
You don't think so?
I don't know.
I think positional size people are gonna just freak out.
And this isn't DB, not a ringing endorsement. I haven't watched him enough.
Totally fair.
I just haven't. I don't know enough.
That's just a guy where you're gonna see a frame and you're gonna go, I'm gonna pay attention. If you're a scout.
Yeah. I simply don't know enough.
And that's totally fair. I don't either. How do you feel about, is there anybody on either side of the line that you would be enamored with? Or that you'd want to keep an eye on at the very least?
You're going to laugh.
Yeah.
Competitive stamina.
I think I know who you're going to say because I think it's who I was going to say.
Good size. I kind of like Lutovsky.
Oh, okay. No, that's not who I was going to say, but I like Lutovsky.
I kind of like Lutovsky. I feel like, I don't know if we appreciate him enough. He played good football.
He did. I mean, we said it yesterday. I know you're not a huge PFF guy, but he graded out the same as the Notre Dame guard that we're enamored with.
And look where Nebraska ran the ball in crunch time.
A lot of Lutovsky side.
You know, he would lead. Evans would pull. Like,
so,
I just kind of, I would love to chart that.
So you brought up one of the guys I was going to say, Justin Evans.
Yeah, but if you see Justin, just from me to you, I don't know.
So physically, he's
small.
Physically, he's not going to blow people away, but how many times?
Really, really short.
So he's not going to get drafted high. He's probably a third-day guy because physically he's not going to blow people away. But how many times do you see these interior offensive linemen that nobody cares about, that nobody's enamored with their physical stats or their testing or whatever, that you look at and you go, that guy's mean-spirited and he's going to keep going.
He's probably in the top 10 of guys like I would draft.
Yeah.
If I was starting my
But you're
team.
not going to be enamored with him as a scout.
He would be he'd be a top 10 pick.
Like if I had to bet on a guy, Justin Evans is probably one of the guys that I bet on to make it.
So I think I'll go back to something Coach Rule said Saturday that didn't seem to make a lot of sense when he was talking about 98 to 105 or whatever the number was he picked, the last 10. What did he say, 7 to 10 or
the last 7 to 10 guys on the roster.
He said those are guys that make our program better.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Justin Evans is physically way better than a guy that just makes your program better.
Yes.
But his
mentality
is why I would draft him in the top 10.
Absolutely.
Because I need that guy. If I put that guy in my position group and we're doing drills, my drill work is going to be better.
100%.
I could be apt to walk away. Say, Justin, you got this? I'm going to go look at these guys over here.
Yeah.
And I know somebody's either going to get whooped or they're going to raise their level.
I buy that.
You know, that's what I said about Ty.
Mm-hmm.
You're not trying to replace his talent. You're trying to replace
The other stuff.
How he attacks
the intangibles.
The intangible stuff.
Yeah.
Like that's what you're trying to because they have a couple of more what I would call physically talented guys.
Oh, for sure. I think so.
A handful.
Yeah, like several.
Will you work like that though? Will you have joy and going to work every day like that?
That's why I would keep an eye on Justin Evans. I understand he's probably a day 3 draft pick.
Listen, if Keona Davis,
that's a guy I want on my football team. Works the way that Justin Evans works. Yeah, he's a first round pick.
He's incredible,
right? I mean, am I exaggerating?
It's so hard along the D line that I'd like to give myself margin for error, so I would say no. But you're not crazy.
Like it's not out of the question.
No, you're not crazy.
Like if he works like Justin Evans,
he's gifted.
He's going to be in that conversation.
He's gifted.
That's how we'll talk about him.
Great frame.
Yeah.
Long arms.
Yeah, I know. Like when they kind of said what they did about Keona Davis last offseason, that people sort of lost their minds a little bit, and that was probably not fair to put on him. But I do think physically he is as gifted along that D line, kind of as anybody they have.
I'm going to ask this question. My buddy asked me, "Aren't you trying to replace production? Where specifically?"
Maybe was he talking about the Ty Robinson?
I assume so, because 8-17 is right now.
Yeah, so that was probably right after the Ty Robinson comment, because you said you're trying to replace the mentality and the intangibles.
When you think Ty Robinson, this is rhetorical. This isn't rhetorical. This is real.
Yeah, real time.
The first thing you think of is to replace production.
No, not really. Now it depends on. I guess it depends on what you mean by production, because if they want to play
the statistical data.
So
that's his impact.
So that's what I said. It depends on what you mean by production. Because statistical data, I don't think that at all. Impact, maybe, like probably, but then also what he means to that team.
I need. You
need clarification there.
Yeah,
because
I'm not quick to say yes or no.
If you're telling me the argument is impact, not stats, then I'll hear that. Because I don't like his stats were good. They weren't irreplaceable, right? His impact might be irreplaceable if you're asking the same guy or different guys to do the same thing, which is why we talked yesterday about trying to either get guys on the move, or maybe you're playing gaps versus head up, or maybe you're playing a 4-front versus a 3-front. Like you're going to have to do it a little differently because you don't have a guy like Ty. And so the impact, you can make an argument. I'll hear that.
So let me just give you something for clarity's sake for folks listening. We appreciate you. Hopefully this is why you listen, but so, I told you that, Coach Butler strikes me as a pressure guy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, some of that was because watching Bull stuff, they were always on the move, right? So a couple of days ago, I was like, hey, I want to go back to like bowl game preparation, just game planning and stuff. And I think part of the schematics or why they wanted to come downhill is because they wanted to protect the D line. Because they didn't know if they could play how they had played throughout the season, being short of numbers. So they were already thinking about how else can we play, given the fact we're missing 17 sacks and
totally.
From 3 guys, the rotation. Like how can we play if we have to hang in? Right. So that's a real thing.
Yeah.
I mean, we would sub sometimes along the D line, and I would do this even at the youth level. And because we had guys that we wanted to play, and clearly they couldn't do everything that the defense called for. And I would ask our D line coach. I'd say, hey, who's in at nose or who's in at the 3? Like, do we need some pressure to protect them? So you can do that.
Yeah, 100%. And I think they're going to have to be creative because they don't have a
I don't know. We talk as though they're like void of D-line talent, and they're not. They're not going to have to like make wholesale philosophical changes.
I think they're going to have to make some strategic changes.
Yeah.
Because, and again, we talked about this yesterday. There's a reason a lot of teams don't run a scheme that requires them to have this huge nose guard, because there's not that many of those guys.
Yeah.
Like,
okay.
There just isn't.
So here we go. Because I get wanting intangibles long term, but next year I need a guy to play the same. I'm not just talking about trackable stats, but are they occupying blocks? Are they forcing doubles to free up others?
Yeah, the impact.
I think we need a handful of guys to do that and not take a step back. Okay, so I'm vibing with the second part.
Yeah, the impact part.
Yeah,
right.
That's more impact.
Totally agree.
I agree.
And that's a tangible impact, but it's not a statistical impact.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So, but I also think, I agree with you, they have guys that could have similar impact, but it's going to look different.
Yeah.
Right? Riley Van Poppel is going to play a similar position, I think, to Ty Robinson, but he's going to look different.
And I get it, because it's not just as simple. Because I think what he's saying is, hey, man, it's not that easy.
For sure.
Okay, so, and I agree with that,
Yes.
too, because I always say this. It's easier to spell the man than to be the man. So, I mean, Ty could play 65 plays if he needed to.
Mm-hmm.
There aren't a lot of guys that can do that.
Not at that position.
He played 50. What did he play in the bowl games? 60? 55, 60?
Yeah. Not at that position.
At 300?
Yeah.
That's
hard.
That's hard.
That's really hard to do.
So
you're asking
I'm not saying, hey, RVP, go get your 55 snaps.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that.
But you say, hey, can I get 40?
Or something like that.
Can I get 40 from you?
Because it is much harder.
We'll get the other
to be the man than to spell the man.
20, 25. Yeah. Well, we talk about all the time with basketball.
I used to tease Rucker.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, not so much fun as a full-time starter now, is it?
I mean, you can make the same argument with James Williams we were talking about earlier. James Williams was put into positions where he should be successful. Like if he has to play full-time edge, he's a different player. Yeah, right?
Believe me.
Same thing with Prince Will.
Somebody was super complimentary, was that a couple weeks ago, about like starts and yards per carry for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I only had to do it a handful of times.
I think that was me, actually. I was nice to you one day.
I only had to do that a handful of times.
Yeah.
No, if I wanted to do that 13 games. I didn't train like that early on.
Sure.
I mean, right?
Yeah. It's different. We talk about it all the time with basketball, right? Being the number 2 on the scouting report is a lot different than being number 1 on the scouting report. Things look a lot different for you.